Hello, everybody. When last we left off, I went through a great deal of suffering to get Copilot on Neovim. And that's where I am now. That's not where I am now, but that's where I am now as far as process. So if I go over to a new screen and bring up a Linux shell and bring up Neovim and Vim instead of just Vim, I can do little things like start typing a random number generator. I am not actually in a .py file. That was one of my great discoveries. So it has to be Neovim foo2.py, and now we can go into insert mode and say random number generator. See, it already finished that for me. So import random, you hit the tab, hit enter, hit tab, hit enter, hit tab, hit enter. And it's trying to run foo random. So I got to get the hang of it. Clearly it's different versions it's trying to return to me. But if I just say foo2, calling the function foo2, I should be able to go to this is from the last time I did it. It wrote a little code generator, a little crawler for me. So I should be able to go Python foo2.py. Did I save it? Did I call it foo2? Foo2.py in my home directory? Am I in my home directory? Foo2. Did I save it? ls. There's my original foo file. :E shows your file name, but not your full path. Let me quit out. Yeah, I'm in my repos directory. So if I just go into repos, now I can go Python foo2, and well, it didn't print it out, but I guess it didn't have the printing in there, did it? Yeah, it just returns a random, so you have to print it. You print the calling of the foo2 function. And there's your random number generator. All right, so that was created by Copilot. I didn't do any coding. It made the decisions there. I just sort of created a comment and then tabbed through it and then just made sure I called the function and printed the output. It's nice. It's nice. And I paid $100 for Copilot for a year because I'm not going to just test it for a month. I'm going to have some long-term exposure to this to see if I want it. But a more fundamental question now is Vim or Neovim. So when I started this exercise, I did not think that this was available on Vim. So I need to double check my facts now first. So let's do that. And I'm tempted to always use Bing now to learn these things. So let's just, let's ask it first. Is Copilot available on Vim or just Neovim? Now I type it a little more expressly now because I know it's going to be overflowing. I'm not even sure the terminology. It's also going to be hitting the chat bot. And I want it to have a fully articulated question. So it's available on both, and it gives us the link that says so. And as you mouse over it, you can see bignerdranch.com. Is that the only reference? See, that could be hallucination. So this is a place where I actually will probably go to google.com, type Copilot. How could this not be the authoritative place to go? And then it's sponsored, but it is the GitHub, it's the Copilot page on GitHub. Here's some news about it. And then we go to the one that is not a paid ad. And I was here before because I think I signed up for it through this. I mean, I signed up for it. So everything's kind of a blur. After you do everything necessary to get it working, start a free trial. Yeah, it wasn't free. It was like pay to use it. And so I paid. I fell into the trap, right? So maybe they'll just get $100 for 1 year out of me. Maybe I won't be going with this forever. However, I need to get my basics down as far as answers. So there's features, actions, packages, security, code spaces, Copilot. So this is Copilot, right? Explore docs. So exploring the docs for Copilot. Not thrilled about their site. I mean, they kind of make it, okay, there we go. Visual Studio, Neovim, VS Code. I believe I am correct in this, that it was really, I had to go to Neovim for this. That page doesn't exist. Broken link, folks. JetBrains IDE. Okay. So what are we going to do in this video? It's no longer Vim or Neovim. It looks like Copilot. See, that's the headline. I don't know what the headline's going to be yet. And this is about Copilot on Neovim. Got it working. That's the main starting point of this video, right? This is so open-ended. I do these videos so much different than most YouTubers because I don't know what the heck I'm going to necessarily be doing. The whole point is journaling and kind of to feel it out. So I got it working, and it's a disjointed experience. Because I journal in Vim and I'm all tooled up around Vim. However, Vim and Neovim are supposed to be almost indistinguishable. And my plugins, I don't know, and my .vimrc should work in Neovim. Let's see if that's true. Green Lantern highlighting will tell me. My Green Lantern highlighting. Force of will. All right. What is the vimrc for Neovim? What is the .vimrc for Neovim? So interesting how there's DOM replacement. You could see something else was there for a second. I should really look at the code at some point to see how they're doing this. But Microsoft is playing some shell games, some swaparoo to put this in. And they probably have a timeout or a delay. So if you surf away, it doesn't start the chat thing, which is computationally probably much more expensive than a normal Bing search. And I can see it's .config/nvim/init.vim. So let's do that. cd /.config/nvim ls vim init.vim. It's the plugin system, but I didn't have to use that after all. I'm going to see if I can delete those. call vim plug. No, it's calling it from a location, so that might actually be necessary. What I'm going to do is see if I can turn that off to see if if this is really controlling the presence of the Copilot plugin. So if I quit here and go back in, and yeah, there it is. So yeah, I didn't really even need that other stuff. So that means I might be able to just copy my vimrc into that location and it will do no harm. cp tilde/vimrc to this location /init.vim. And this will be a before and after. So before, gray highlighting for visual select. Green highlighting for visual select. That right alone was just a huge success. That tells me that I'll have, keyboard macro shortcuts. So I could probably just go ahead and switch my all program that is on. So here, this is my daily journal. Now I entered into my daily journal from just typing it directly by going into the directory where I have it and typing the name of the journal. However, I usually use a program that I keep in cd/user/local/sbin. You're scripting binary like commands. You're scripting like commands. So you can see I have all and start Jupyter in there. And if I sudo vim, because you have to use sudo to edit anything inside your sbin directory, you need admin level privileges. So I can do sudo vim all, and wherever I have vim, I should be able to put an n before that vim. Edit journals, yeah. So you can see the highlighting isn't green here, but that's because of the file type it is. I don't do that on files that have no extension. These files in sbin have no extension so that you can use them like commands real conveniently from the command line. For this, if I type :E, you'll see it's called all. It has no extension there, right? So I'm going to search for vim, and that's a repo name, so we don't do it there. Edit pages, Linux, Python, Vim, Git. That is more like file names and stuff. We don't want to do that one. This is backing up my vimrc, and this is the first occurrence where it should probably have an n in front of it. And that's a repo name there. It's a repo name there. Yeah, that's really just the one place. It's one n placed into my all program. And now I should be able to just type all, and it's going to do my journal process, which is doing a pull from each of these repos. Because I switch around machines, I want to be able to do my journaling from whatever machine I'm sitting down on. So I start out with a pull against a number of different repos that I'm normally editing. I keep loaded all the time. And then once it does the pulls, it will load them all, and this should be Neovim. Now it's really interesting because I don't know what it's going to do in a markdown file. I am now typing in Neovim for my daily journal for the first time. Shift V, there's my highlighting. Now let's do a spelling mistake. Do a macro for it, and my macro ran. Let's do a common misspelling, like, I don't know, consciousness. There, and my macros are working. That's pretty amazing. Let's see, : version. Yeah, nvim for sure. Holy smokes. So switching my daily process from Vim to Neovim was really that easy. Now one of the next things I will probably do is create an alias. Well, I need to see how people generally handle this, because I'm not the first person to do this. I don't even know exactly what to say. It's you know, how do I alias nvim to vim, vim to nvim, vim to nvim? That's probably the most common way people ask the question. Chances are, yeah, see, it's going to say a bash rc change. I'll probably do it in my bash profile. You can create an alias for vim to nvim by adding the following to your shell configuration: alias vim equals nvim. That easy. I probably wouldn't even need to change it in my all file. In fact, I'm going to go undo that. Undo that from a different shell here. cd /user/local/sbin sudo vim all nvim. Get rid of that, save and quit, and then cd to my home directory, clear ls-la to show you everything that's in there. There's lots of hidden things, and there's symbolic links and all kinds of stuff, but the one we're interested in is .bash_profiles. So it's vim, and you don't need admin privileges. This is in your home directory, .bash_profile, and where I have aliases, because I'm already doing some aliases, right? Am I? Oh, I'm not doing any aliases. Holy smokes. Yeah, well, I have new approaches here because I'm making it for the world instead of just myself. So anyway, I can put the alias in close to the end here. I'll do it after all these exports. Write and quit. Now the thing about editing your bash profile is you have to close out of it and open it up for whatever was in your bash profile to take effect. So if we just go vim, and I can tell because it got rid of that intro, but I can also go version. There's nvim, even though we typed vim. So I can quit out of this now, and then I can go back over to screen 1 where I used the all command, the edited all command, and I'll write and quit. And you got to do that twice now. And when when you write and quit from my all script, it actually commits into all those different repos to make sure that everything's up to date, again, because I work on different machines and I may switch around. And it may seem like a lot of overhead, especially when the repos get really big, like my sites repo. However, it's not as big of a deal as you think, because you load it once at the beginning of the day, and you should probably just keep it running for the whole rest of the day. And it's just a safety net to make sure that all your important stuff is kept up to date. And there's a few things actually out of whack that I'll have to fix here. It's not a big deal. But if I bring it up again with all, even though I have removed the edit from all, removed the nvim edit from all. Oh wait, this is actually, we're gonna quit out of that. This needs to be closed and open for the alias to take effect. Now we're gonna do all again, because it's not going to use the new alias unless the bash profile has been executed, and the bash profile executes only when the terminal is open. So, explaining what I'm doing. And after this will be in my public journal, right where we left off. End version. That is not what I wanted. Well, an alias is not going to override something that's used in a script like that, is it? Because that script might not be using your environment variable. Well, the best laid plans. Now, because I don't need all that, it's going to try. I can just Control-C out of that because it doesn't really have to finish that stuff. But now sudo vim, because I'm going to put the nvim back in. Sorry to make you wait through that, but this is the price of tuning into a live cast when I do all this. So vim/user sudo vim user local sbin all, and one of these vim incidences should be nvim, but only one of them. And that's the one. No. And that's the one. That's the one that controls, the initial command that, all these different files that I edit at once. I put each one in a different buffer. So write and quit. And yeah, now we'll do all again. And you'll see kind of what happens here because, yeah, I don't think it's going to overwrite. So when I quit out of this at the end, it actually updates because my all file is one that I update from time to time. So when I quit out of this, that's going to push my all file back up into probably my Vim repo. If you ever wanted to look at it, my Vim repo is probably public on GitHub, and you can see how that all file works. But I have now officially switched myself over to Neovim for my day-to-day work, believe it or not. And now whenever I'm doing Python coding in Vim, I have Copilot. In Neovim, I have Copilot. So that's kind of the mission accomplished there. But I tell you that I'm probably going to wrap this in. If I'm happy with it, if I'm happy with this, wrap it into DrinkMe. This video is really about the refinement and paring down. I'm going to be paring down. Is that P-A-I-R? Paring down? Or is that P-A-R-E? Of the install scripts in github.com/miclevin/drinkme. All right, what the heck am I talking about? So that script turns your Windows 10 or 11 machine into a Linux Wonderland, to a Jupyter Linux Wonderland. But it currently does too much. I want the least possible install that will give you a Linux Jupyter. Of course, it's on Windows. It goes without saying. Although I am really making this work for the Mac as well. I gotta say, I'm standing by ready to Macify all this same work because I am as much of a Mac person as I am a Windows person. I am a multi-platform. My heart belongs to the Amiga, using both Windows and Macs is a necessary evil, but they have both caught up wonderfully over the years. Both Windows and Macs have the equivalent of Amiga N now, a satisfactory equivalent to Amiga N, in a lot of ways even better. So, I'm a pretty happy camper that the user interfaces of the mainstream platforms have really caught up with 30 years ago. And, I'll use them. But I won't fall for the proprietary bullshit that makes you go obsolete every few years and has to turn you into a bullshitter just to, get by. You never want to be a bullshitter. You want your tool set to be a tool set that lets you get better and better through your whole life without the carpet being pulled out from under you. And the carpet is pulled out from under you intentionally because of designed obsolescence, planned obsolescence. People want you to have to retrain, retool. It fuels the information economy. It fuels the tech economy to have everyone repurchasing and retraining and relearning and recertifying. But you don't have to. You don't have to. Most of the people who are really the heavy hitters don't. Everyone else uses VS Code and will have to in a very short order. But I could ramble about that forever. So the DrinkMe script gives you a Linux Jupyter on Windows, and it give you a Copilot Neovim on Linux terminal on Windows. Do I have to spell it out every time? I'm not sure. So do I have anyone here on the call? Let's break that tab out for the streaming, and then maybe I'll talk to you folks. Wow, holy smokes, it's up to 3 people. Well, say something to me if you have any questions. I'm going to be not doing that whole thing with the chat window on my typing screen because it's just too much. I'll keep this here and I'll check back every once in a while. So if you have questions, type them to me and I'll try and look here every 5 minutes or so. And I'm going to try and finish this out. So one of the things I really like to do is get back down to just 3 things running on screens 1, 2, and 3, right? In this case, we have a special exception because I'm streaming and it's a repeat of what's on desktop 2, but desktop 1 is my journal, desktop 2 is Jupyter, and desktop 3 is a browser. So that's what I'm trying to achieve, and that's what I'm also trying to give all of you folks with the DrinkMe script. So what is the DrinkMe script? I drop myself right into the repos directory, right? And that's what I'll do for you, right? What I'm trying to give you is this Linux shell icon, right? When you have this Linux shell icon in Windows, you double click it, and you have Jupyter Lab running in a Linux service in the background. It tells you that, and you can go look at it if you really want to. But it also just gives you a place to do whatever Linuxy things you want to do. And one of them is work on repos, right? Because most of that code in GitHub is Linux code. You'll find exceptions, but Linux has taken over the world. And if you're trying to do coding on native Windows or Mac, you're making a mistake. CD DrinkMe. Now, the way I have this DrinkMe folder is it's a GitHub repo, so that is the equivalent github.com. You can search on my name, MIKLEVIN, my name, but minus the E in front of my, after MI, you get the idea. So it gives a variety of repo selections and such, but you can just go to me, my main profile page, seemingly, apparently. What the heck is that? Someone forked one of my old projects there. I'm just going to go directly MIKLEVIN like that. And it's one of my top or pinned, repos. So this is what it refers to, and these are the files that are inside of there. And this one here is the one that all links lead to, because you copy and paste it into a .bat file local on your machine, and then you run it, and it will do all the magic. Where's that link for the raw file? There's always a... Probably clicked on the wrong thing here, so... Yeah, if you click on that one, it just shows you the file itself. It's a little bit dark. Sorry about that. But this I'm going to be cleaning up, and that is accessible here as vim. Oh, yeah, I get to see vim install.bat. And I can tell just by the highlighting. Look at that. Ugh. I'll have to do some stuff to clean it, but I'll live with that for now. Install me. People don't need this nonsense. But they do need an explicit instruction of why I'm doing this. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. It's a bat file. That is Copilot suggesting things right in the bat file. Yeah, that gets right to the point, doesn't it? Thank you. Jupyter Lab will be available at that. And I don't want it to go too far to the right because this is optimized for mobile. Yeah, we'll be at. This hard cell, I don't really need. We go right to the benefits. You know, to make it sure that it's really going to go well, I'm going to tell people to install Ubuntu, and I'm going to put a version, 20.04, from the Windows Store. Yeah, that really gets to the point. Wow. Now, once you do that, you really don't need to do this. But I do need to overcome some of the biggest objections that exist. Which is you need local Linux-based Jupyter in. You need to use local Linux-based Jupyter. People won't even understand that. This is the best way to run Jupyter for a bright future. Yeah, for a bright future in Linux, Python, Vim, and Git. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Instructions. Yeah, and so that's going to be visible on mobile. And then it's okay for the wraps to start occurring. And I'm not going to belabor this. These are screens that come up during the install All right. It's good stuff, man. Wow. Oh, yeah. WSL-D, Ubuntu 20.04, da-da-da-da. So I do believe that there are a couple of references to Ubuntu 2004 that need to just be changed into standard Ubuntu references. A user, and I'll do a shout out because boy was he useful, helpful, friendly, and generous. Dominic Childress Beckham. Thank you, Dominic Childress Beckham, for your help in working that out. Now, there's things I would really love to replace by variables, and see how I say WSL. Now, I don't want to make too many changes at once because that would really nuke me. But what I do want to do is I want to go over to my journal and find the change that I always have to keep reapplying. Make it easy for me to get back my data drive after running the install.bat. Okay, so I just know that that is going to be a fs tab edit. So if I just search on fs tab, I know I'm going to jump to places where I document it, right? This is kind of it, right? So this is how I get my data drive back. And I want to make sure I'm not missing anything because this is a tricky step. You're not going to need to know any of this until you're using a NAS with a DrinkMe script, so I don't think that's going to be the case for most of you at first, although I'm going to lead you that way. It's something very much worth doing. All right, so further paring down before I test, minimal paring down before I test. It's good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Now I'd like to, in the same way that I set WSL user, where do I even do that? Is that it? That's not built in. Oh, I'm doing it. See, right there. So set Linux version. It knows what I want to do. Oh my goodness. Wow. This is probably one of the first times editing a batch file or a .bat file is being demonstrated on the internet using Colab, and certainly under Neovim. So let's see if there's anyone out there watching. What are you tuning in? There's people there, and there's some chatting. Oh, Desktop Chronicles, hi. Excellent to see the Mac Jupyter setup in an upcoming video. Yeah, I am not leaving Mac behind. So this is a place where I would normally fire up some graphic software and draw a picture, but Computer Chronicles, more than anyone else in the audience, will understand, or Desktop Chronicles, more than anyone else in the audience, will probably understand that I'm using Linux like the way the Java runtime engine or the Java virtual machine, JVM, JRE, was used or intended to be used in the past. But Linux, Debian derivative Linux, has become that. You know, there's some Red Hat advocates who would contend that. However, let's face it, Google for Chrome OS chose Debian derivative, Microsoft for WSL chose Debian derivative, and Raspberry Pi for Raspbian chose Debian derivative. Linux One, Debian flavored Linux one, and for mainstream use. There's exceptions, enterprise and all that. However, for everyday Linux use by developers, you don't need no snap store. You just need Debian derivatives. So here is Linux ver is going to go in here, right? So we highlight that whole thing, and then we go down here, and then it's percent Linux ver percent escape, and there's that. Now I guess I want to find other occurrences of Ubuntu hyphen 20.04, right? That's the one that I'm replacing, and there's quite a few of them. So I guess I want to do it carefully. So watch this. If I do Control V, and I'll do the extended select manually, and then I will do a QA, recording the macro at on key A, delete, Control V. Oh, I don't know how far down to go, so this macro is probably not a good way to go. Shift I, percent Linux ver. I'll just bite the bullet and do it kind of manually here. I'm going to not use that macro. But at least this way, when it changes from Ubuntu 20.04 to something else, you know what? That is a consistent enough pattern that I can search and replace. No, I can't. See, there's places where I have to be very careful. I have no idea if that percent trick is going to work inside the parentheses there, especially in this context. You would think it's all the same, but these are like PowerShell-esque commands to do fancy stuff on the desktop. So I'm not going to risk it. I guess I can do a very strategic select like this. Do %s/, replace that with percent Linux ver %/GCC. No, that didn't work. All right. Okay, I'll do it a line at a time. Watch, this will be a tricky one, right? So QA, V, word, back a few, D for delete, I for insert, percent, Linux ver, percent, escape, 0J, Q. And now I just have to put myself here at A. Oh, I should have forwarded myself a few spots. At. This is my Star Wars joke. It's when an at marches across your work. At. If you position your cursor right, you can just go at. But it's not even worth it here. There's so many in a row. And you'd think, you know, people might say, oh, it'd be so much easier in other editors. I don't know, because I'm avoiding doing it in other places where the context changes. You can't necessarily do a global search and replace for this kind of thing. You want to do it very carefully. So let's run this script, right? I'll show you how this works now. Now that I've edited it, I'll quit out of it. I'll do a git status just to show you that I've edited that file, right? And then I can do git commit. What am I doing? You know, using Copilot. says nothing about the edits I made, but that is, for me, for future reference, if I ever look again, git push, the important thing for me to notice. And then I go over here to where the browser is, and there'll be a nice before and after, because I just did a git push. If I do a refresh, there it is, right? See, it's a shorter file there. And if I go into the raw file, here's the trick now, watch. All copy, right click, new, text document, Control A, install.bat, yes, right click, edit, paste, save, close. Now I'm not going to let it run, but you'll see it starts. It would start here. This is the script, and this would reinstall my whole Linux. If you want to sit along for it, I'll do it. I will lose a few things, which I'll have to put back. Just basically a link that I make to my NAS drive so that my how do you even verbalize it? So that my virtual machine Linux on my Windows machine has access to my NAS drive. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's how you say it. So I'm going to write and quit, because you don't want to be in any of your Linux sessions when you run the script like I'm about to run. You don't want this running because it's that back ends that. Browser is okay to keep showing, but any of these Linux terminals need to close. All right, let's see if you guys are still there. There's people there. You want to see me nuke my Linux and reinstall it? I'm going to do that. So quite a bit to sit through. You know what? I'm going to do one more thing so that it's not so much to sit through. I am going to go into Linux shell one more time. cd DrinkMe, ls. These are the files that comprise the whole project. And apt installs does a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to go vim apt installs, and I'm going to edit most of this out. We don't need Chrome for this demonstration. We don't need any of this for this demonstration. So I edit everything out except for the installing of Figlet. Oh, that's not even the installing of Figlet. So I edit everything out. It's a whole edited out thing. That's going to make it go a lot faster. That's apt installs. There's a couple other installs here. There's git installs, vim git installs. Yeah, we don't need all those repos to be cloned in there. I'll edit these out for a moment. And that's apt installs, that's git installs, and then the requirements.txt. So a whole lot of, and I don't even know exactly how you edit them out in a requirements file, or what I would want to necessarily leave in here. This is where I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of stuff to make this nicer. So I think what I'm going to do is just git move requirements.txt to requirements.back.txt, and then touch requirements.txt because it's going to be referred to. And then I'll vim. I'm going to take a look at requirements.back.txt just to see. Yeah, it's just one line entry, so I'll just put one thing there. Vim requirements.txt, and I'll just put, say, pandas in there. All right, that'll be a much faster install. Oh, but it's going to fetch it off of that one. It doesn't do it from local. It does it off of the GitHub repo. Damn. You know what? So what? I'm gonna git push that up there. cd DrinkMe, git status, git add requirements.txt, git commit, strip down, git push. Now that I've pushed those things up to GitHub, when I do that double click from the desktop, and I'll leave this open so that you can see this is a working terminal at the moment. If I run this, it's like it's going to nuke your whole Linux. Yes, it will nuke my whole Linux, but that's quite all right because nothing is kept in that location. Everything is kept in other locations that are sort of protected. See, there is no distribution with a supplied name, and we're going to have to fix that. And it's not necessarily going to be the easiest thing in the world to fix because we got rid of some stuff. Now I put a WSL conf on the desktop. That's interesting. That's, I think, a bug because of those earlier things that were broken. So I'm just going to, if I remember correctly, I actually have Vim available here too. So that's in repos. I want to go to desktop, cd, how do you go to desktop? And there it is, ls, and yeah, there's going to be install.bat, vim install.bat. Oh, no, not that. Install.bat. And so this is Vim in Windows for when I find myself in these situations. So what I really want to do is just find those Ubuntu commands that I took out the 2004 at the end. It's these two here. All right. So my friend Dominic had to take out those two 2004 instances. It might be something about his machine. Oh, there it is again. No, okay. No distribution found. Where's that old break? There used to be a break key on keyboards. It had no meaning except for people who still did things the old school way. So WSL service, WSL underscore E distro not found. There's no distribution with a supplied name. So that's all the instances that I replaced. That is all that stuff with the I should have left that open. I will this time because I didn't think I was going to be needing to edit it a lot. Tilde / desktop, vim install, vim install.bat, and the thing I just touched is this, ubu ntu-t0.04, and that is a variable called Linux var. And given the amount of times that command came up, it is almost certainly that. It couldn't be anything else, because that is what occurs so frequently. So one thing we can do is echo Linux var and then exit. Oh, there you go. See it? See this? This is closed. That's what I wanted to show you. That was from the Linux being nuked. That's nuking the old Linux. Putting in a new one. Oh, and the exit just popped out. I needed to have it pause. So there's logic that I use here and there to make things pause. I'll just grab one of those. I can probably move the test higher so it doesn't have to do this whole time-consuming thing here. Yeah, see, it's showing Ubuntu 2004. I wonder if it's the quotes around it. I bet that's it. I bet that's going to be it. You guys there? Huh, it's amazing. I can't believe there's people actually tuning in. I thought I was the only one. Hey, Joseph and Desktop Chronicles. It seems whenever I stream, there is interest. This might be my sweet spot. I have been not streaming for such a long time because I moved from the Poconos back here to the city, and I started a new job. I did a lateral switch within my company, and there's been a lot of moving parts, and I've been dedicating a lot of time to my kid. So I lost confidence in streaming. I lost my streaming legs, and I've been easing back into it with recording videos. And I really have had to, because Bing and Bard, right? I can't not be producing videos with these huge cosmic tectonic shifts in the industry going on. But this is something I missed, and I'm glad you guys are here. Yeah, it dropped down as soon as I mentioned how many people are here. They're like, hey, I'm out of here. So hi to Miles Mortars, who also just sent a comment on a different video. And, hi to the old crowd. I'm going to see if it's a quotes around the setting of the values here. Deep breath. I drew this Alice, by the way. I traced that over top a picture of Alice. I use that transparent thing. And look at that. See how it's saying 20.04? The fact it's showing the variable name there tells me I totally nailed this. So let me get rid of the thing that forces the exit and see if the script gets through. And if the script does get through, I might change these back to normal Ubuntus, although keeping them in sync with what gets set here is good. I don't know what happened with Dominic necessarily, but I'll figure it out. I should also change this a little bit so that Alice's hand is still on the screen. I was thinking of putting a jar of marmalade there, or some text, but I guess it's noisy enough. Hey, look at that. See, this is what's supposed to be happening. So you waited long enough. Good news. You're going to be waiting even longer, because this is not particularly a fast install, even though I have trimmed it down quite a lot. And now that I have Copilot right in the bat file, I'll be able to do all kinds of optimizations, right? Because I'm not a bat file guru. I kind of hunt and peck my way through these things. Sudo apt get, sudo apt update. That is never a fast process. All right, so I'm going to see if I can chat to you folks while I'm doing this. I'll maybe put them all both on the same screen and go split screen. Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. All right, I'm available for chatting while this install is going on. I'll maybe talk through a few things as it goes. Have you looked at the local chat GPT? Not yet, Joseph, but AI at home is it. I will be doing that ASAP. Want to help me design a home GPU cluster. Can install 7G and 13G models. I don't even know what you're talking about, but yeah, this kind of stuff is what really interests me. It's all about competitive advantage for the same reasons I advocate running Jupyter on genuine Linux at home. I advocate AI at home too. Might be made illegal, right? If you want to do this stuff, you ought to do it soon before they pull all the open source GPT clones down, right? That could happen. This thing could be legislated out of our lives. It's quite possible. So grab yourself your llamas and your alpacas and your whatever else free and open source versions of this stuff you can get, because that could be some rare code. I know that I'm pretty sure that Stanford's alpaca came down as quick as it went up. Will run on local hardware. Yeah, so you're talking about some hardware versions, 7G and 13G. Yeah, no, I'm totally going to be running this on, like really local hardware without a GPU cluster. So there's a lot of talk now about, it being able to be done on just a couple of GPUs on a standard gaming card, or the training part of it. And the playback is no problem, right? The actual answering the prompts is the kind of stuff that even a home laptop could do. But the training of the model takes some work. Although there are some hacks that have been done, GPT-J6b, just like GPT-3, but you can actually download the weights. Single NVIDIA GPU. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I know nothing except the buzzwords for doing this at home. I know nothing about the buzzwords about this at all, to tell you the truth. It's all still a mystery to me, but I know that just like anything else, you get the libraries, you get the basic understanding of it, you get sufficient hardware, and, you can do it. So that's coming. There's neat tricks that are being done. I'm not sure if it's the Stanford alpaca one, but there is some hack where they are training your own model by probing an already trained model. So you don't have any of the computational costs of doing it in the first place, and you kind of black box recreate it by just a whole bunch of prompts against an already trained model, and then you get a approximately equivalent trained home version. Will work on Raspberry Pi. Yeah, this is awesome. Like, I'm totally getting up to that kind of stuff. What I'm doing now with all this WSL stuff is mostly to make a convenient working environment so you can be in Linux. You know what I have to do? I have to make sure that these libraries, that all this CUDA stuff, all this NVIDIA specific CUDA stuff works through WSL, so that I can get my experience on just my regular laptops, and then transfer the knowledge to some more dedicated hardware. So your phone too. So you're just talking about playing back the trained model, right? You're talking about responding to prompts, Joseph, but not the training itself. I can't imagine the training could take place on a Raspberry Pi or a phone. Maybe a Raspberry Pi, maybe a server farm of Raspberry Pis. I don't know. They have 4 GPUs now, don't they? Raspberry Pis have gotten pretty powerful for the money. See, I can't even shrink the font size here. There goes Python 3.1 installing. I hope I wasn't locking up at the install. I might have been locking up the install with key presses, making you wait a lot longer than you've really needed to. I'm going to put this actually in a corner here. Yeah, well, you've given me good advice in the past, Joseph, on how to get some cheap home tower, hardware, and I'm going to go that route. Right now, I feel like picking it up and showing you, but I'm still on my QNAP NAS from like 5 or 6 years ago, so it's some pretty underpowered hardware. You can plug in something through the USB apparently that gives it a GPU, but I'm not sure if it's compatible with all the NVIDIA CUDA stuff that everyone's using right now. So I'm going to go with regular, PC, home server hardware, so I can plug in one of these, what is it, AT80? I forget the language, but, an NVIDIA GPU card. I don't want to go off the beaten track. Oh, done, right? Look at that. So it's done. It disappears. And now this, which had, I'm telling you, Linux was actually deleted. Oh, that's because I have that loaded still in Vim. That's the temp file for Vim. I actually deleted my whole Linux right in the background here. It was Windows without Linux for a moment. And now if I double click this, it should bring right back up my startup. Look at that. But now it has none of my pip installed stuff. There's not going to be anything here but pandas, right? So I should be able to go here, double click this for Jupyter Lab, and it'll prompt me for, oh, look at that. Maybe something's missing. I'm sure I edited something out in the requests, in the requirements.txt that was necessary. I can go screen-ls to see if see no sockets running. I can try doing Jupyter start. Command not found, right? It didn't even get to that. So if I try doing cd/user/local/sbin ls, oh, start Jupyter. Screen ls, still not there, so something doesn't working there. So vim start Jupyter and see the commands that I'm doing. And I can try, for example, just this command on its own. Look at that. That command is so long because it has this hash in here to get rid of Jupyter's requirement for providing a password at running. But I can copy that, and then I can quit out of this, paste that in, and I'll at least see the error. Yeah, Jupyter not found. So pip install Jupyter. That was probably in requirements.txt. Putting Jupyter in, even in the first place, was probably part of requirements.txt. Okay, we'll try that start thing again. Well, it tried. Yeah, well, I've got some stripping down to do. Maybe I'll do it with you folks on here. If you're interested, I don't see why not. I got to do it anyway, right? So make this full screen again. And I'm going to be doing this work I guess, with Windows Vim. Can't tell Windows Vim from Linux Vim, right? There's same vimrc, there's all my highlighting. Isn't this kind of stuff is just wonderful. So this file is correct, but the stuff that is not optimal yet, cd I don't need to be in my desktop anymore, cd repos. So you can do this kind of work under DOS and Windows. It's not DOS, it's I guess it's PowerShell just as well as you can do it under a Linux shell. And it helps to have those, cross-platform abilities. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. These backslashes feel like every one of them feels like an actual backslash. Vim. Oh no, it's from there. CD into DrinkMe. And then I undo most of that work, and I just make you wait longer. I made you wait so long anyway. I should have not done those edits and ensure to success. ls remove requirements.txt. It should be a git remove, and then git move the other requirements.txt into location as that, but without the hyphen back. And the other one has stuff edited out. Those can keep that stuff edited out. This will be one more test. Git commit requirement less stripped. Git push. And all my keys are in common. I mean, this kind of stuff, I don't know why everyone doesn't. I mean, people might say it's so advanced and stuff, but after a while it gets to be somewhat natural. If your SSH keys are in common between Windows and Linux, and your config files such as your vimrc and stuff like that are in common between your Windows side and your Linux side, you can just bop back and forth, no big deal. And so I'll leave that running. It's nice to have that running, but I can just basically run this script again. I mean, this isn't the kind of thing I would normally do for YouTube, running these things over and over. This is a me kind of thing, but I'm live streaming. You're here. You want to be along for it. I can just leave that in the background. I know there's not that many errors anymore, so I can pay more attention to you guys. Just check back on that occasionally. You could use the route you mentioned with NVIDIA Tesla Pro 24 gigabyte GPU. Now you're talking. GDDR. See, Joseph Melnick knows this hardware stuff far more than I do. I got some real seasoned folks out there in my audience. I am continuously impressed and humbled by Joseph, Computer Chronicles, and a bunch of others who come in here and just, I have a much more seasoned perspective on a lot of the things I'm trying to do. I'm the perpetual noob who can make scripts work with enough effort. I'm like a Roomba. I hit a wall, I back up, I turn a little, I try some more, I do some zigzag patterns, and it eventually works. Which is why Copilot has been so appealing to me. As much as I shy away from that kind of stuff. Oh, so are you a perpetual noob? Yeah. I think specialists who know their stuff so profoundly, humblingly well, and there's a lot of professionals under that category. I've seen technical people like that. Of course, surgeons and anyone with people's lives in their hands, either medically or with law. So there's lawyers who are this way too. You hear Anthony Scalia and people like that talk. Their specialized knowledge is stunning, and makes me think I'm not quite as evolved as a human being as I could or should be. But then on the other hand, there's a lot to be said for being a generalist. You're not pigeonholed and you can jump around, and it's fun. It's fun figuring stuff out for the first time. even if every time it feels like for the first time. And, you get things together in just such a way that it works, and then you lock in on that and you use that, you run with that for a good long while, because multilingual people are another one of those types of people who things come naturally to them. All the stuff that makes me curse the field of technology, they're like, oh, no problem. I switch from JavaScript to Java and jump around to different languages, and I don't care how often they rev it, and APIs changing doesn't bother them. And I'm like, I don't even understand how that's possible. I have to use my muscle memory. And that's why things like Vim are so important to me. And that's why little issues like, you can't use Vim because OpenAI made the plugin only for Neovim, are like, oh. And then you see videos like I shot today, accommodating for that fact, responding to that fact, accepting it, and not being nuked, not being set back like a complete noob, because the stuff I have committed to is still 100% relevant still. Neovim is Vim. It's a fork of Vim. They changed some underlying API stuff to make plugins easier and things like that. So OpenAI liked that more. So with with an alias and an edit to one script file, with one alias and one edit to a script file, I'm now on Neovim, and I can't even tell. It's going to be transparent to me, but I have Neovim in my life, and Copilot in my life. Now I won't anymore after this install is done. All that work I did earlier to get Neovim in here is blown away, except I can reproduce it now. I've been through it once. I can go through the moves again. And now that you see how I'm editing these files like apt_install and git_install and requirements.txt, those three files, by adjusting those three files, it adjusts all that stuff where I can swap out Neovim for Vim. So you can see apt installs, pip installs. App installs didn't do anything because I edited all that out. But because the requirements is back in place, the pip installs are all happening. And it's the pip installs that are that kept Jupyter from running. So I guess what I'm doing here is I'm checking the stability of my DrinkMe script. Switching over, what am I even really doing? I'm getting ready to switch Vim over to Neovim. And in the process, I want to strip out as much as possible that I had in here that was bloating the install, namely browser automation. One of the biggest important points I'm actually going to be stripping out because it makes this testing take so long. And of course, you see all this stuff installing under the requirements.txt. I will selectively strip it down. And one of my next steps is going to be to see how to comment things out, in requirements.txt, and then selectively comment out all this stuff. See all this stuff here? This is the stuff that was in requirements.txt that needs some follow-up stuff to finish the install. See, some of them are going to need setup.py run. Some of them use the wheel system. And not all of them are necessary for kind of a stripped-down version that'll be more user-friendly, that people will be more receptive to. So I have been using, so Joseph is saying, I have been using ChatGPT like Copilot lately. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's what convinced me. I would not be doing Copilot had ChatGPT not proven itself as useful as it has. I started out skeptical. Use Chat GPU to help you solve programming. GPT to, yeah, agree, relevant. Write plugin to replace your coworkers. Oh, right, yeah, right. Write plugins to replace your coworkers. Yeah, so I love my coworkers. I guess it's worth saying now. Is it still the workday? It's after the workday. It's 6:23. Well, I'm going to be doing this kind of stuff through the workday anyway because it's so important to my day job. But I cannot say enough positive things about my employer, who, after my department was dissolved a few months ago, said, "Hey, Mike, why don't you try over here at this SEO company that we own, in part because I helped the selection process of what to acquire." And in the act of divine providence, it feels like I switched from my department. It was kind of a round robin SEO department for all the different divisions of my employer that also did some M&A work, merger and acquisition research. And I switched from there over to a dedicated SEO company that's very well known in the field, probably one of the first ones out there, 2007. Only companies like Bruce Clay go back further. Want to help me design a home GPU cluster? Sure. Yeah, good. Yeah. After this latest round of work stabilizes, Joseph, I am going to make sure that the PyTorch powered by CUDA works under WSL. If it doesn't, I will switch my platform because I got to be using PyTorch with the GPU acceleration. And that's the software part of it, but the underlying hardware is up in the air. So for people who are following along and really don't get this stuff I'm doing, you can get yourself started on Windows. The Linux that ships with the Linux you can install easily on Windows gets you a long way there. You can flesh things out. You can do tests. You can prove things. And then when you're happy, you take that same exact code and you just, git clone it onto hardware that has a big fat GPU gaming card in there. And then you can train models. You can, tag things. You can label your data, do some supervised, do some unsupervised learning, and have your own home trained Chat GPT, right? That's the popular ones. That wasn't what I was thinking at first. I was thinking image labeling, right? Image labeling of your own, say, Google Photos, right? So there's a lot of interlocking projects here. So downloading all your Google Photos to your local machine, get it off of the cloud, because now that people understand how much AIs really can, know about you from your Google Photos, do you really want to keep all that out in the cloud? Isn't it time to start pulling that in? And you won't need that much technical expertise to do this down the line. Right now you do. Less than you used to. You can get a lot of shortcuts by buying some pre-made things, either off of the Kickstarter projects or just a simple QNAP or symbology, NAS, right? So you can get a lot of this at home right now, kind of easy and free. Oh, there it is. It's done, right? So we release that window. Now we test the Linux shell. And just merely this being opened means that this icon should now work. That's like the whole point. By that running, this runs. See, that's the way it's supposed to work. Foo is the password. You can't get away from having some sort of password because of the security context of Jupyter. So I just made it foo. And it's like, oh, did everything get blown away? No, nothing got blown away. Here's everything. Oh, and most importantly, my journals, right? I just type all again. Now, this might not work because of the Neovim thing, because I don't think Neovim really got installed. Yeah, Neovim's not there. Yeah, I'm not going to make you wait through that. That's not going to work. CD hide, CD Mike Levin, Mike Levin, Vim journal. And there's, you know, nothing's gone. My whole journal's there. All my repos are there, right? So a little trick here that's going on that might be of interest to people is that when you go into your own Windows home directory, which you can usually get into, you go through your C drive. If you go to your C drive, you're going to find a users directory, and under your users directory, you're going to find your name, your Windows login username. You can go into there, and then all these directories in here. There's the .Jupyter where I keep the Jupyter config. Here's my .ssh here somewhere. Let's sort it alphabetically. There's my .ssh where I keep my my security keys that allow all the Git stuff to work, both Windows side. So if you keep all your stuff here and you make it available Linux side through symbolic links, something that Linux is really good at. There's so many screens, right? This is why I use particular screens for particular purposes. It's easy to get lost. But if I cd to my home directory, and then I do an ls from there, I do an ls-la from there, you're going to see these little arrow things. There's the arrow to my .config, there's the arrow to my .Jupyter, there's one to .ssh, and there's one to repos. And these symbolic links from, from my Windows side to my Linux side are what keeps all the data preserved. There's actually another one usually here called data, keeps your data preserved, and that other one called data is the reason why in my journal I took these little notes, because I have to reestablish that connection to my NAS, which involves editing your fstab, right? This file here needs to be edited and needs a line put in. If anyone follows in my path on this front, this is the most customized part of my whole process, because names change. Your NAS is going to have a different name, and your default Linux user is going to have a different name. Although I've been keeping it Ubuntu lately for convention purposes. So this is not exactly what it's going to be anymore. That's probably going to be Ubuntu there. But you get the point. I've got tiny customizations. Everything else works exactly like a universal virtual machine, like Java used to be. The paths are the same. Capabilities are more or less the same. And only little details like whether you have access to a GPU or not will vary. So, bar. I don't know what you mean exactly there. All right. Wow. People are staying with me. There's some appetite for this. There's some interest for this. So my next steps then, now that that install just worked right, so I knock myself back to fixed position. This stuff is really annoying, actually, to have all that stuff showing, because it's just darn confusing. Again, 3 windows, 3 apps, full screen, terminal, Jupyter, and would you like to receive official Jupyter news? Please read the privacy policy. I'm gonna answer. Okay, yeah, I'll let. And then full screen browser. And so now what? This is what the journal is about, right? Now that Linux is back, I have my journal. CD hide. There's something different about that. I'm going to close that out, open it up. CD hide, CD Mike Levin, Vim journal. And now I have been successful updating DrinkMe. I call it DrinkMe, even though it's install.bat under the DrinkMe repo, but you get the idea. I can't edit out the whole requirements.txt file. Right, so that's where my mind was, right? I need to understand how to edit, comment out lines out of requirements. Now, chances are it's just putting the $sign or the hash symbol in front of it because it's Python centric, and that's what a comment is in Python. So I'm almost certain I'm going to find you put, hash character before what you want to comment out. So let's do that, right? So that's my journal now. So screen 4, right? You see how I think. It's like once you do that reset, you know you're going exactly into screen 4. And these are the things that allow you to be more productive. Over the years, you get faster and faster because things are in the same location. There's almost physics stuff here. Fixed frame versus relative frame. Vim requirements. Things we don't need. Control V, Shift G. Control V, Shift G, Shift I, $ space, escape, save. I commented everything out. Now I'm going to bring things that I really need back in. That's required for blogging. In fact, I'm going to move to the top things that I know are required for blogging and stuff. Art, Authenticator, Beautiful Soup, .map, Fuzzy, Wuzzy, Google Analytics, a whole bunch of Google Analytics stuff. There's big changes coming down the pike. You know what? This is important enough. I'm going to put that there. Not all of these are really required for my blogging and for Jupyter, for blogging in Jupyter, right? But enough of it is that I'm going to put them in there. Image hash, lemon scene, and be clean. Yo. And be dev, not yet, but soon. Natural language toolkit, OpenPy. Yeah, you know, all that pandas stuff we don't really need yet, even though I used that as the example before. Python Slugify, that's used for blogging. Requests, because gotta have requests. And be black. These are the ones that I edited out before, but shouldn't have. Okay. I'll take a quick last look at this. Oh, Twine for releasing stuff to PyPy. Oh, can't live without SQLite dict. TLD extract I use for so many things. And really, what am I going to not use pandas? I got to use pandas. All right, so this is probably my strip down. I'll sort those. I'll sort those. I won't leave a blank line. It's probably fine to leave a blank line, but this looks like a pretty good place to leave off. There's a lot that I'd really love to get in there. Art. I use that as an alternative to Figlet because Figlet is not compatible everywhere. All right, I check with you guys. And then I'll do the changes to get Neovim in there. Bar, password foo. Oh, bar, foo bar. You were answering to foo, yeah. So the history of foo and bar and all the variations thereof is so deep and rich. Ah, boy, I would love to just chat about that all day. Convergent evolution, by the way, it's not just one foo. A lot of military fans will tell you it's foo bar, effed up beyond all recognition, which is part of the 3 stages of any military operation: snafu, tarfu, and foo bar. Things are really snafu. Things are really fu. Tarfu. No wait, snafu. Situation normal. Tarfu. Things are really, and snafu and foo bar. Effed up beyond all recognition. That's the popular interpretation, but there are others. All right, so now that I have that stripped down, the next thing is getting Neovim installed. And that is not easy. That is not easy, my friends, because that might have to be in some other scripts, because it requires the adding of different things for the apt system. I forget what they call those, but if we look inside of here and then we vim, see, we've got 2 install things. We've got install.bat that runs Windows side, and then we have install.sh that runs Linux side. And we want to find some dead snakes, so I'm going to look at install.sh. There's the dead snakes. All right. So I need to add another line here that adds the repository, the PPA repository for Neovim. And I did that earlier, and it's in a video I shot earlier, but install Neovim PPA. All right, that's going to totally have to mention it. To install Neovim on Ubuntu, you can use the following repository: sudo apt-get. I think that's it. I'm going to put that in there. I hate to bloat these things further, but yeah, sometimes you got to bloat these things further. It's not exactly the right place for it, because that's where I do Python stuff, but I'm adding PPAs here. And we have to give the -yes so it doesn't ask for user interaction. And having done that, it's going to go through an apt update at some point, and that's good. So we do the sudo apt install of Python here, but you'll notice that the reference to apt installs, apt_installs, is way here at the bottom. So by the time it reaches that, it will already have the new Neovim PPA thing available. And so that means I can now just vim apt_installs and put Neovim in here. Let's see if anything else is required. Sudo apt install Neovim. And you'll notice I do not have Copilot running anymore. So this live cast might actually just become doing those things again that were required for Neovim. Now, interestingly, I blew away all the work, all the example work I could poke around and look at, but I think I understand it a lot better now. And I can get the plugin system here and all that. But it might be painful for you folks. Yeah, dependencies. Sometimes it's out of context when you're answering stuff. There's a big time delay between when I make a comment, Joseph, and when I see a response. So I know you're saying dependencies, ? There are dependencies. I was thinking about the dependencies as I was editing the requests txt, specifically Jupyter, the Jupyter dependencies, because all this is about getting Jupyter, Linux Jupyter running on Windows, right? Linux Jupyter on Windows is like the big magic trick here. And then the second magic trick I'm working on is Neovim with Copilot. And so this video. Oh yeah, the reason I'm using Neovim versus Vim, so let me show you that. This is some of the subtext here. I'm going all over the place, but it's because I'm in that strange synthesis of new things I learned, and that tab is probably still open here, I believe. Was it this page? One of these pages. Copilot is only available on Neovim, is what I'm saying. Yeah, Copilot is not available on Vim. There it is. GitHub Copilot integrates directly into your editor, including Neovim, JetBrains, Visual Studio Code. So these four. Conspicuously missing is Vim, right? I would never in a million years switch to Neovim because it's against my basic, philosophy of, if an 80-20 rule, if an 80-20 tool, the 80-20 rule says an 80-20 tool pre-installed is your tool. Why would you switch? Why would you take something that abides by giving you most of what you want with the least effort, after the learning curve, admittedly, to something that's nearly identical, and you have to add a new PPA and, use plugins where I'd never used plugins before. No, except Copilot. Copilot in the text editor is a big deal. All right, so let's go through this process again. By putting that command in here, Neovim will now be installed. I did the PPA piece and I did this piece. Now there's a couple other pieces. Watch this. There's if you look inside this DrinkMe location, you will see there is a I have to do an ls-la in order to show the invisible stuff. There is a bash profile here. So vim.bash profile, and I'm going to put that alias in here. And I forget exactly how it goes. I'm a perpetual noob, so I go to the browser and I go, alias vim to neovim to nvim to neovim. The command you type is nvim, but it's going to know that. I'll let it show me that. The answer is probably displayed here on the page already, but I'm so into this chatbot. Okay, so there's my alias, right? That's part of it. That's one piece of it. Look at those single quotes. That's interesting. All right, I'll keep it. What the heck? Another part of it is my ls-la. It's a different repo. cd hide / vim cd vim ls-la vim all / vim. One of these is going to be the magic line that controls. There it is. Oh, it's already nvim. See that? And this is in the repo. I edited this in location in user local sbin, and here it is in my Vim repo, because that script that I use to launch my journals actually does all that housekeeping to make sure. So Neovim reference is already in my Vim repo. And I can cd back into DrinkMe, confident that Neovim is going to be replacing Vim. Now, it might be that I want to do one more install. There's so many long waits between iterative tests here. I would love to speed that up, but it is what it is right now. And there's a bunch of tiny little touches now to get, what am I saying? To get Copilot active in Neovim, right? I got to go through that. But I did a few of those things here to get started. So one thing I can do is just run this again, and it's going to nuke my Linuxes one more time, right? So that's always my journal. Right quit, let it do its thing. Oh, it didn't have to do anything because I didn't go through my all script. I just went through a simple command. But git commit latest git push. And I don't really have to do that. It's not like that's going to get lost because this lives Windows side. This repos directory, even though it looks like it's in my home directory on the Linux side, is really in my home directory on the Windows side that doesn't get nuked with Linux. But it's never a bad idea to back things up. Close out of this. And the browser is about the only thing I can keep left open. I run this, and I can run this because nothing changed in the .bat. I changed something in the .sh, but the .sh gets retrieved. Oh, it gets retrieved. One more thing before I run that script. I have to commit and push DrinkMe. You can see a few things changed. Neovim. Neovim attempt 1. Never be too optimistic. And the interesting thing is, you know, all those resources that are pulled off of GitHub are updated on GitHub that quickly that you don't really have to wait. Once you do a git push like that, you wait maybe a few seconds. And then, oh, well, I already have that running over here. I just didn't hit the enters to get it started. By the way, in case you're tired of looking at blue all the time, I can open a PowerShell and I can cd onto ~/tab desktop and clear, and then I can go install .bat. Whoops, it was there. There it is. And I can run it against blue in PowerShell. It runs just as well. And in PowerShell, I have the advantage now. I can control the font size. Oh, there goes Alice. Dropping down the rabbit hole. Right, this has the potential to become so big. My goodness, if I get the polish down on this and make a good argument for people to just wait it out through this. And if people don't get that error that Dominic's been getting for that one error that's been reported back to me, which has to do, I think, with unusual Windows setups, then this could pick up some momentum. Let's see why you know what, now that that's all transparent and stuff and font size controllable, I can get these onto the same window. Hey, let's make it really fun to watch. I break out chat, pop out chat, minimize the live stream, pop the chat over there, and now I can get some nice, there we go. All right, Joseph, chat away. And use VS Code most days. You have JetBrains Suite and you use VS Code most days. Oh, is there a reason? Yeah, I answered about Neovim versus Vim. Yeah, so I have been on so many text ed. I'm sure you too. I'm talking to some very seasoned veterans out here. Even though you call it yourself a perpetual noob like me, anyone like Joseph in Computer Chronicles has probably had 4 or 5 very dear to their heart text editors or IDEs in their life, because they they change. They're fad driven. If not fad, at very best, they're trend driven, because desktop user interfaces change, because all this point and click windowing stuff changes. How different does Windows and Mac today look from Windows and Mac from like, the 90s and 2000s? Just change happens, and that kind of change, and call it what you will, maybe I'm a little learning disabled, is profoundly damaging and insulting to me. I don't like when vendors do that to me. I feel like, do they have to relearn they're just making money on it, right? We're the ones who suffer from these changes. So it took me a long time to really accept the fact that Vim was going to be my future. And once I put in enough time to start getting it into my fingers and my muscle memory, I'm like, that's it. I'm never changing Vim for the rest of my life, and no plugins for similar reasons. But it's not the particular instance of the software. It's the consistency of the APIs and the small API drift that happens over the years. If you have a consistent API with a small level of API drift, honestly, you can change your software. You can change from Vim to Neovim. You can change from Debian to Ubuntu. It's all the same within enough narrowness that people like me can live, can tolerate it, can stay in the field of tech, right? Nothing less than your long-term viability in the field of tech without suffering this kind of burnout is at stake. VI starting in '89 still works. Yeah, I have had more. Oh, yeah, VI starting in '76, my friend. VI was written by Bill Joy in 1976. And then VIM was in 91. Before VI in 1976, there was QED, right? So, yeah. Tell me about the QED text editor from long ago. QED is a line-oriented computer text editor that was developed by these people in 1960, between 65 and 66. So all these things that VI and VIM and Neovim do are these commands that were intended to be applied against a single line text editor. If you can imagine not having a whole screen for your text editor, but instead only having one line that you could edit, and you could scroll up and down through your text file one line at a time and issue commands on that. Yeah, okay, so didn't use QED, you used text and ed. Yeah, you go way back longer than me. Ed came after QED, but before VI. I don't know TED at all, but these text editors are the very definition of time-tested, battle-worn, and still not as good as Emacs, which is also time-tested and battle-worn. However, Emacs requires an even larger commitment, an even steeper learning curve, and it gives you carpal tunnel syndrome from all the Control-Shift-Alt key combinations that are required for the macros. So after making maybe one attempt at Emacs, one sincere attempt at Emacs, I said that I was on a better track with Vim, and I doubled down on Vim, knowing that if I really wanted to go the Emacs route in my life, I can use the Vim key bindings. The Vim, it's more than key bindings. VS Code has key bindings. Emacs has a whole Vim emulator, right? You can't tell yourself from using Vim when you're using Emacs in Vim mode. So that's always a contingency plan. But I don't think I need it. I'm not that wizardly. Like when I talk about these specialists out there who whose brains are like these pulsing alien people brains. Those are the Emacs people. I am not that. I've tried to be that, and I am jealous of those people. And if you want to see those people, if you want to know what the heck I'm talking about, I'll show you one of them. There's a powerful wizard out there in the Python world, and his name is Raymond Hedinger. This guy here is the most wizardly Python person, shy of Guido himself, that's out there. And the way that I use Vim, like real time in front of people, this guy could use Emacs real time in front of you on the source code for Python and commit it and not screw up, right? So if you know some of the cooler tricks in Python, like how named tuples take the place of a lot of really, noisy code, right? A lot of object-oriented stuff that scares people like me. And he took this whole object-oriented world that has all these advantages to it, and he condensed it down and distilled it into these lovely little named tuples. Oh, look at that. I missed one. See, it got stuck at waiting for user input. So I'll answer yes to that, but I know I have to go into where Neovim is getting installed, and I have to put the -yes after that. But in a way, it's kind of nice. It showed me where it got up to Neovim. Skills, assembly. Let me read these in order. Oh, can you ask what is Jupyter? That's Abo Gassan. Okay. Yeah. So Abo, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Jupyter is Python coming up through a web browser. Simple as that. You would think that this is a compromised Python environment where it's inferior to other ways you can install Python on your machine. However, it happens to be superior in a lot of ways. VS Code copied it. So if you've ever seen VS Code running Python inside of it in this novel way where the code is always really still running and you can always investigate the values of variables and objects in memory and then continue running from where you left off and make little changes and continue and rerun portions, all that is using the same components as Jupyter. I can't say it is Jupyter, but VS Code lifted those parts that made Jupyter and used those in VS Code because it's free and open source. And if you want to know the history of this lovely stuff, it's a foundation behind it. It's the Jupyter, what is it? They got a good name for it. And this is done, so I feel like I should show you that, but it's worth following up on this concept. What you want to see is the Fernando. It's a Fernando something, one of my favorite Fernandos. So it's the Jupyter Project Jupyter. Project Jupyter is what I was trying to think of. You want to go learn about Project Jupyter. These are some very cool people helping the free and open source world. And more than that, they're helping humanity because probably more than anything else, this product, this Python, derivative project, this kind of assemblage of parts, it's also a lot of things from the JavaScript world, I'll tell you, has helped solve what they call the crisis of reproducibility in science, where it was found that almost a third of all scientific research was not reproducible, given the same data, given the same processes, given the same everything. Another scientist couldn't take the work of the first scientist and reproduce it. And there were proprietary products out there like Mathematica from Wolfram Alpha and Maple and a bunch of other ones that could do this, but they're like, $1,000 products with licenses and stuff. And so this is a free and open source version of those, college and science-oriented notebook products that let you intermix documentation. See, this is documentation with live running code. Here's the Lorenz attractor with widgets. So you could have an explanation of what Lorenz attractors are, documentation written in Markdown, the Python code, and then interactive widgets to let you control parameters of it, all free and open source, all genuine Python, the real Python kernels, nothing compromised about it whatsoever, just a lot of really cleverly combined components. All right, and the people behind this are these really, heavy hitters, interesting people. You'll have never heard of them, but there's this one, Fernando. Let's see, governance, might talk about it. These people are still probably pretty active there. Executive council, there's a guy from Netflix in here. I wish they had your pictures. Anyway, I'll get back to that. I could talk about that all day. Great stuff, great stuff. It's just changing the world and people don't know it. Oh, 7 people watching. I should just keep going. Thanks for the update, Joseph. All right, so this finished. All right, so we can go out of that. And you can see the escape brings you back to a prompt here because I started it from a prompt, right? I started it with that command. So when it's over, that interface doesn't go away. But Linux is back. Linux is back, and Neovim should be there. And with all the aliases in place, I should just be able to type vim. And that is not what I was hoping for, but we can do nvim and see if that's actually there, and it is. See, that's there. And if I used my command to load my journals, I'll let that happen. I won't make you wait through that. I'll come back here once those are all loaded. It's probably going to be loaded into Neovim. And this is now a great starting point to get Copilot reactivated. I'm essentially going to be redoing my work from earlier today, that long, painful video on YouTube, to get my DrinkMe script to have Copilot activated insofar as it can be. And it might not be able to be fully because, like I say, credentials. Oh, and I took the browser stuff out of here. That's really interesting. I'll probably run the Linux browser stuff to get that back in here because the configuration requires the browser popping up for a second. But at any rate, we type version, and it's Neovim, right? So version shows me that I am actually in a Neovim here. Now, Copilot is not going to be active because of the way I nuked my Linux, but I should be able to do Copilot Pilot setup. No, probably not because the plugin system, right? So now it's time to actually make some journal entries here because this was done, worked, and I have now added Neovim to DrinkMe, but don't have the plugin system activated. Also, remember that I used their script to add the plugin, the OpenAI plugin after vimplug was installed, right? So there's these key things because I made mistakes earlier. I didn't get it right on the first pass, so I don't want to repeat my mistake. So this was an important one. They provided a little script that was a WSGET or something like that. Yeah. Oh, thanks for explaining. Sure, it's my pleasure. Yeah, you should learn more about it. I would tell you that Jupyter is fundamental. Jupyter is becoming fundamental in a way that I did not think it would. And it also fills a gap for people who don't want VS Code in their life, right? I'm not alone, and Jupyter would not be as popular as it is if VS Code worked for everyone. Honestly, VS Code is for professional programmers. there's a fairly steep learning curve to get started. Whereas Jupyter, let me show you Jupyter. Now that this is installed, watch this magic trick. This is all about like magic tricks, right? You get this icon on your desktop after my DrinkMe script. Now, there's a lot of ways to install Jupyter. I would add that this way is just one of the many ways. I think it's the best because it's Linux in the background. But this is what Jupyter looks like. And let me show you the hello world, okay? This is the hello world in Jupyter. I'm not even going to hit Shift. Because single quotes work in Python as well as double quotes. Run it. That's the hello world program, okay? And so probably the most significant thing is if you were to set that to a variable name like h equals hello world. Now you can look at h. Now you can do things like, you know, from 1 to -1 to chop off the first and last characters. Hello world, right? So Jupyter lets you just keep building things up. This kind of thing used to be called a REPL. You don't hear the word REPL being used that much anymore because it's really more than a REPL. But yeah, what is a REPL? Environment. So if you want to know the broader concepts that are kind of at play here, Jupyter is what they call a read eval print loop. And it's honestly built into Python, the read eval print loop. That's the interactive console. If you want another name for a read eval print loop environment, it's an interactive console. So if you just go to any old Linux shell and you type Python, you get into this strange, weird environment where you could do the same thing. A equals hello world. What? Print A. There it is. And, you know, I don't know if you can do the same tricks. You probably can. I bet you the command line interpreter has copied the Jupyter feature, or vice versa. Who knows? There it is. Look at that. Right? You don't even need to use the print world. This is the Python interactive console. It is also an example of a read eval print loop environment, but Jupyter takes this concept and it puts it on steroids. It makes it many times more powerful, and it has done it over the years in steps. They didn't get right to Jupyter. If you want to know some of the other things that were along the way, what is IPython? IPython was one of the things that came along the way. It was a much more powerful interactive console, an interactive Python console that added a lot of features that people thought were missing from, or that this guy, what's his name? Fernando. I need to do him justice because he's one of the real big unsung hero innovators. You know, who's that Raymond? No, it's not. It's Fernando. Who's that Fernando who made it? Talk about the context, right? This chat stuff is changing the world. You only need a vague notion of what you're talking about. And because my last question was about IPython, who's that Fernando who made it produces the correct result. Fernando Perez, the creator of IPython. So, you know, who's that Netflix guy? Right? And I bet it's not even going to need qualifications because of the connections between the Netflix guy on the Jupyter project. Maybe it will. Yeah, he's not sure. Okay. So who's the Netflix guy on Project Jupyter? So there's a lot of people. Credit goes around to a lot of people for these innovations, but Fernando made sort of the foundation, the supercharged interactive console that works in command line. It looked a lot like DOS or Linux shell, so it wasn't appealing to a lot of people. So these other people also stepped in, Fernando plus others. Oh, it's still not sure. However, you can use in Jupyter notebooks. Okay, well, anyway, the chat things haven't come that far. But on Project Jupyter is one of the lead developers at Netflix, and he's a pretty heavy hitter too. So if you want to know more about this, there's lots of rich history there. Oh, yeah, does a script log its status? Yes, sure thing. Oh, give context. Give context. Does a script log its status? Thank you. Did I give context? I'm not sure. I see your Joseph's comment, give context. Could you give context for giving context? All right, so I'm going to return to my thoughts there. Actually, this is where I do my reset, right? You know, there's always a reset. As interesting as it is to have Jupyter running here, you know, I usually have it here, but I know I'm going to be resetting it. So what I really want to do is quit everything but the web browsers again and get to the customizations, get to the Copilot part. Yeah, the Copilot part is interesting. The Copilot part is probably going to, okay, so what is I'm going to Vim plug for Neovim. You know, I got to just refresh myself to the things I did this morning. One of them is a plugin system. It is compatible with both Vim and Neovim, right? So this is an interesting thing. I'm using a minimalist Vim plugin manager that happens to be compatible with both Vim and Neovim. So that's a big win. Compatible. I resist plugins, but if you're going to use plugins, use a plugin system that travels between different VI clone platforms, right? How do you install a Vim plug on Neovim? And you'll notice I'm in Bing chat. I am not in Bard. Bard has not built my confidence that much on this kind of stuff. This is very, very familiar. Add the following to your init.vim. All right, this is, I believe, where I went wrong, because I tried doing a lot of this stuff manually. By the way, another place you want to close as many things as possible is just the pesky tabs. People who keep a million tabs open, it's a reflection of your mind, my friends. Not that I'm not scatterbrained, I'm just projecting. I suffer that, so I fight against it. All right, so right from the horse's mouth, right? Because I went wrong. This is the script that I was better off running than following the instructions from chat, right? Talk about bleeding edge, right? So chat can lead you wrong. This is probably directly puttable into my build script. I have to choose the right location. Now you'll notice the sh command, that's the reference to the Unix shell interpreter. There's sh and then there's bash. This is the more vanilla one. Bash would be the more feature one. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. It means that has to go into the install.bat file as opposed to the install.bat file, because, or the install.sh file. Install.sh lines up with that. See that sh? We go over here. We go into DrinkMe. We do an ls, and you'll see install.bat and install.sh. See that sh there? That sh file is capable of running things that, take the sh command, right? Vim install.sh, and we're going to find the best place for it to go. There's just so much that happens here. once I have Copilot, I'm going to be cleaning all this up. I'm going to try and make it as efficient as possible because I got all this working by the skin of my teeth and tested by the skin of my teeth. If it had more bugs, I would have heard more feedback than just my friend Derek. I have one known issue. But this thing that I'm adding here is modifying stuff after apt install. See, these are the apt installs. And the command to install Neovim is inside of this. So we actually need this here. And you can see I put node on here, right? This is pretty bloated. I wish it were more slim, but I've really had a difficult time slimming this down. You know, eventually you always need node installed. Okay, so insert, paste, get rid of the backslash, do a shift escape and then shift J to bring it all into one line, and make sure that there's not current directory issues. Curl is something that retrieves stuff. I'm not sure what those parameters are, but we look at path information. XDG data home, that's so interesting, so interesting. I hope that the context works right, because every time you're executing shells or scripts, it's executing in some context, and you can't be guaranteed your environment variables or aliases or whatever are correct. So sometimes you just got to run the whole thing to see if it works. So that installs the Vim plug system according to this. That is that line, okay? And after that, the system is there. The system is there. And then it's more about Copilot than it is the Vim plugin system. So we want to take a look again at GitHub Copilot. Neovim. This is where it mentions it. I believe that should be a link where you can drill down. Oh, that's a link that doesn't exist. You people. Okay. So if that's not where the special instructions exist, let's see if there's other mention of Neovim here. That's a features page. Actions, packages, security, code spaces, Copilot. So I'm in the right spot. All right, I guess I gotta ask, how do you install ChatGPT? This is Copilot on Neovim. And I know I've been here. I know there's a lot of redundancy, but hey, you guys tuning into my live stream. This is sometimes how I work. Like I say, it's a lot like a Roomba, you know, just backing up, turning a little bit, and trying again. So this is the part that misled me, right? So there was actually stuff in there. You can install Neovim's plugin manager, okay? Git clone, home data, Copilot, Vim. You can install GitHub Copilot with Neovim's built-in plugin manager. Built-in. I didn't know they had a built. I think it's hallucinating. Git clone. Well, you know, let's see where that's coming from. Page not found on that one, right? That was that one. That's where that used to be. There's a 1 and a 2, so we'll try the 2 link. Page not found there. Try the 1 link. Page not found there. Lovely, lovely. So that's real trustworthy. Alternatively, okay, so this is what I am doing, I think. Alternatively, you can use a plugin manager of your choice. To install, for example, you can use vim plug. Okay, so this is where those instructions. So I wonder if I don't even need that vim plugin system, except all the links on those instructions are gone. See? So I'm going to use the plug. I guess I'm on the right path after all. Install the plugin. Okay. GitHub Copilot has plugins available for most common editors. This one focuses on that. Otherwise, yeah, so if you like to try out one of the others, right, so my script is going to install the vim plug, right? I think that's the page that isn't. Oh, that page is there. Look at that. Yay. All right. Installed Node.js. That is already installed as part of that. Install GitHub Copilot, Vim, New. Oh, so is that the command I put in there? The Vim, Neovim, git clone of a Copilot Vim Git. Is that what I added? No, this is a curl. All right, so we're on to something. It's going to likely go here, although they are saying install node first, so there might be some order dependency. So I'm going to take this one and put it after the node install. But before the Jupyter stuff. So node is already installed on the machine by the time this command happens, and that adds the plugin system. And see how this line, even though my eyes got crisscrossed and it seemed like it was the same command, but it's not. This is hitting a different place. And once this is run, you can do copilot.setup, which is what I'll probably give some instructions in the documentation to people on how to do, but to not actually do it myself, because there's going to be authentication issues, which, by the way, won't work because I edited out the browser part of it. So now that I have that in there, I'm going to edit back in the browser install, because you need the browser to pop up for this to work, and that's part of apt install. Chrome and all the X11 stuff. Playwright. Do you need Chrome? You know what? You don't really need Chrome. Just Playwright. And if I put the Playwright one back in there, then there is something that's a post install of Playwright. It looks like it's the full Playwright install, but it's not. There's a line in requests. And I hate to do it in requirements because I hate to do it, but because it's one of the more heavyweight parts of the installs. But that's really got to be there for all this browser authentication stuff to work. It's also important for OAuth, I would point out. There's things that can be done here that aren't going to be able to be done in a Python sandbox in the cloud. Ultimately, these are the little things that make all the difference. All right. Git status, git commit, browser back in end Copilot installed. Git push. This is going to be a grand experiment. And again, because I didn't edit the .bat version, I'm going to be able to just up arrow over here. I'll catch up with you guys here. I know there's a lot of talk to do, but I'll do a clear, and I'll just let Alice do her falling again. All right. Oh, good evening. Okay, Joseph. Yeah, boy, yeah, this was a long run. Never any problems with people stepping in and out on this, because these things run long. I always on the fence whether to even live stream it or not, because it's so, but I really enjoyed it. Joseph, thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you again later. Let's see who's with us. Yeah, 3 people still here. Feel free to chime in. I am more than happy to go into detail and talk about different aspects of what's going on here. All the fun API work is going to happen as soon as this is done, right? Because having a Copilot inside of the text editor doing, oh, I wish I had Copilot in, see, that's the thing, having Copilot inside of VS Code. I wish I had Copilot inside of Jupyter. And the fact that Copilot will probably never be in Jupyter, but it will easily be in VS Code, far more easily than what you're seeing happen here, is a really strong argument for VS Code. It's also a strong argument for the vendor trap, right? Being taken prisoner by vendors gives you a beautiful prison, as Richard Matthew Stallman would criticize all this proprietary tech as being beautiful prisons, beautiful prisons. They are indeed beautiful prisons. And you can see, right, my whole motif is very carefully chosen here, right? Alice starts falling because you need to set up this mentality that no matter how far it scrolls, you need that suspended disbelief. I could suppress the output here if I wanted to, but then you wouldn't learn. This is part of the dispelling fear. No matter how long it takes, if it runs exactly the same way and builds exactly the same server every time, why not? It's the time of the install, but honestly, no one else is going to be doing these installs as frequently as I am. And the alternative to this kind of stuff is Docker, but Docker freezes things in place. It has these snapshot images that you can't change that easily. And this is just me editing a script and rerunning it, and the whole Linux subsystem is updated. The whole instances of Linux running under the Windows subsystem are updated. No container. It's arguably it is a container. It's a container running on a hypervisor managed virtual machine to the extent that Microsoft can make it work well. That's pretty good, my friends, right? It's not like having Linux on the hardware, but you know what? You get to stay compatible with the rest of the world. You get to pull off some magic tricks that people on just the plain Linux on the desktop really can't do. You have your foot in both sides. And these difficult parts are why most people aren't doing it. These difficult parts of setting up a good Linux instance under the Windows subsystem for Linux. It's hard to do, right? You see all these little steps that I do in that script, right? That script has a lot of nuance in there. And every time I do that DrinkMe script, anything that's connected to Linux locks up. It's they're dead terminals. And another interesting point is every time you rerun the install script, the latest version of Windows, the latest version of Python, see Python 3.11, but there's Python 3.11 point something else, some incremental advance. And if you ever wanted to try out those features, this is a great way to do that. It's not so easy to do that under other ways of installing Jupyter. I see that the Jupyter education is going to be something really important for me to get across, because most people aren't going to get it. They're going to be tempted towards VS Code. Oh, I forgot to put the yes in there for that. Okay. Yeah, these pip installs will take a while, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pull up a PowerShell. Put in the yes. And that problem won't occur the next time. So who are you? 3 people here. There's probably more. This has not been highly accurate in reporting, but and it dropped to 2. I guess that was the top count of concurrent viewers. No, it's been up to higher than that. It's interesting. It's interesting. Some of the value is in interacting with you folks live, and some of the value is in the fact that this becomes a permanent YouTube video. You need to change the video resolution. The current resolution is, which is not supported. Huh. Open widget. Stream status. Viewer activity. Analytics. Stream settings. I guess analytics is the most interesting thing. Yep, there's the node install, so I know that it got through the Neovim stuff. And I should be able to just type, oh, Jupyter installed, the operation completed successfully. This is very close to the end, done. We hit enter, I go back over here, and I can pull up a Jupyter lab. It will prompt me for the password, which is something that always happens after a fresh Linux update. So first we confirm that Jupyter is running, which I can tell already it is. It's a little pokey. It's going to get to those little spinning things in a moment, I think. You know what? That's a little bit annoying. I'm going to close out of that. That does not seem correct. Let me open a terminal first. And let me vimfoo Copilot setup. Let's try Jupyter one more time. Yeah, there's the spinning thing. There's some timing issue maybe. Okay, so Jupyter's back, and Copilot is not. I'm going to have to check those things that I might have missed. Other people who hit this command probably are encountering the same problem. Not useful. Let's see if there's other instructions here. Let's see if running these separately work. There's really 2 commands here. The 2 key things, and I want to document them so I don't lose them in the future. This is the plugin system. Oh, and I don't have the journal. I can get the journal. This is the plugin system for Neovim. I don't want to lose that one. And this is where we systematically go through it. We don't need that running anymore. But this is the Neovim command. Indent that a little bit just because it'll format it as code on the internet. And you know what? We can just try pasting that into here and see what happens. Actually, I always want to cd to home first. All right. And then this is the, what is the other thing that I have? Yeah, and then this is the Github Copilot page. This is the command from that page to install the plugin. Neovim on Linux and Mac. Do the indent there. It'll format nicely when I publish it, but now I can paste that in. And the fact that, oh, directories, there it is. Okay. Already exists and is not an empty directory. Okay, so that must have executed correctly. This one might not have, but now I should be able to go nvim foo.py, Copilot setup. Yeah, there we go, right? Authenticated as me already. It probably put the configuration somewhere, and now I can go, a fuzz. Huh. What is that programmer test with fuzz in it, like BizBaz. Oh, it's not fuzz with BizBaz. I don't know, but I'm sure it's important. BizBaz. A programming test given to interview candidates at Google. Sure, why not? Well, this is certainly Copilot. All right, I'm just playing now. It's all comments, so it's not the real running code, but I can see that those two commands that I've sort of isolated it down in my journal are, I have put them in my scripts. I just probably don't have them CD'd into the correct directory. this path context might not be working, and so I could find a more hardwired path here. This is a vulnerability that might work under a bash terminal, but not these lower level things maybe before the laws. There's a lot of possibilities, but could be order sensitivity, and I'm going to look through that as my next step. And before I finish out this live stream, I'll have those two things fixed, and most likely, and one more install. I'm going to try and get this to work. I'm going to try and nail it, do one more install, and make it so that all you have to do is that little Copilot command. Although it's already authorized as me, so I need to see where that authorization occurs, and I'll probably delete the authorization file to force a Linux browser to pop up and to go through the authorization with me, right? Because you're going to have to on your end, and I want to do that testing. Yeah, I'm losing people, but it's okay. So, feel free to say stuff if you have questions. I don't even know where that chat window is. There it is. Yeah, hey, Philip. I'm a big fan of Neovim and Jupyter Lab on Linux for about 18 years, still trying to figure out Copilot. Yeah, okay. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going through the Copilot experience in Neovim, and I'm not a Neovim user. I'm a Vim user, but I'm learning how, entirely similar they are. And so, biting the bullet and switching to Neovim because of Copilot. I'm using vim-plug plugin manager, although it does appear there are routes that do not require that. So I do have Linux again. So when I have Linux, I always have the choice of using Linux tools instead of PowerShell, right? It's nice to use either one, but I cd into DrinkMe, I cd into repos, then I cd into DrinkMe, and then I ls-la, and these are all the files in there. And the two files in question for this are where is install.sh, vim install.sh, G semicolon. No, it doesn't remember my last edit. It was down near the bottom. That's why I put spaces around them. I usually tighten up my spacing when the script's nearing completion, but until it is, I leave these spaces in there. And see that .local there? If I were to go out of here and to, I'll do that in another shell, right? That's my journal. See, sometimes you use them up. This, I'm getting tired. Diminishing returns. I will be stopping soon, but I think I'm so close. So if you go cd to home and you do ls-la, you can probably see the .local. There it is. So I know this path, and I'm going to hardwire it. Hardwiring isn't great, but I control everything about this this virtual machine install, so there's no real harm in hardwiring it, right? So this is a vulnerable point. That is /home/Ubuntu, and that has now hardwired that. And we don't need all these fancy quotes and stuff around it. This should just work. Curl, flow, path. Now the ability to exit to execute sh here in the right context, that's in question too. What does sh-c mean? The C in the dash shell will be used to execute the command instead of bash. In Linux, allows you to execute a command in a shell and then exit the shell, The -C flag means execute the following command as interpreted by this program. The dash will be used to execute the command instead of bash. That's what they recommend. I guess I'll stick with that. Maybe it's too fast. Maybe this thing here, the git cloning command. Oh, git clone. Git clone. That is very context sensitive. Git cloning can't necessarily be done just willy-nilly because of SSH key authorization stuff. So I'm going to do badd, that's adding a buffer, badd, bad to the bone, apt underscore install. And then I'm going to take this line here, delete it, save, go to the next buffer, and git clone that into location. There's no damage in git clone. Oh, and see, this is going to survive because this directory location is actually Windows side. And it's really never a good idea to use these things with a tilde in these kinds of scripts. So that's home/Ubuntu. Yeah, that puts that into the right location. There's not going to be any order sensitivity here because it's just putting it in a location. It needs to be there. So there's Neovim, and there's the Copilot plugin put in location. Now the next thing is we go back to the other file and we take note of where this is, and then we want to look at where the apt underscore installs are occurring. See, they're up here, and it might be that I want all the Neovim stuff to happen before that because one of the things in there now is going to want it to be in location. So that means I take this and put this up here. That has to be done first, so stuff is in location by the time the this occurs. Let me think that through. This is the plugin system for Neovim. Neovim is being installed here in apt underscore installs. The plugin is being put in location, but it's not activated. Once it goes through this, this is putting something in location. It's all just putting stuff in location. I'm going to put that after that. I think that's correct. All the apt installs occur. Other things get put into place. And it's all just putting stuff into place. It's not really running anything, so it almost shouldn't have an order dependency. The main thing I fixed is the cloning. The cloning does have context sensitivity because you can't just go git cloning anything from anywhere. It needs to know about your SSH keys and who you are. So I think this might have done it. I'm not 100% sure. Node.js needs to be there. It might be that I want to install Node.js before all of that. Node.js even before the apt installs. This might be key. So the Node.js install, so Node is there, because I remember they say Node has to be there. And then the apt installs, which puts Neovim and a plugin in location. And then this line here, which is another plugin thing. There's two plugins. There's the plugin system and there's the plugin itself. And you can tell this is the plugin itself. No, this is the plugin system. Vim plug Vim. This is the plugins. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The order sensitivity isn't there because it doesn't matter until you do the Copilot setup. So I think this is it. I think this is it. Not 100% sure, but git status, git commit, shuffled things, git push, check on you folks. Hey, there's one person left. Hello, you. All right. Down goes Alice down the rabbit hole. We'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of this. Oh, I hope I saved that. I think I did. I'm always saving. Save. That's one of the things about switching between those buffers in Vim. When you have multiple files loaded at once, you can't actually switch between them until you save. And sometimes it's a pain, but then you realize, well, and then, then there's auto. So you could auto save, but I'm just rambling now. It's been a long day. What is it? It's coming up on 8 o'clock my time, ladies and gentlemen. So I have really been powering through this, but life changes on these kinds of projects. Once completing a project like this, your life is actually quite different. You have, permanent new capabilities going forward, so long as you pay Microsoft your $100 per year. But, even so, now I'm a Vim and a Neovim person. Neovim does not intimidate me. When people say, well, what about Neovim? I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. You start out on Vim, learn your muscle memory, learn whatever. And then when you need to switch to Neovim for whatever reason, switch. You'll be 100% comfortable. That's that API closeness, the low level of API drift over the years that you're looking for. So that if you're a slow learner, if you're kind of like, whatever you want to call me, slow on the uptake, but you like to learn things well, like, it looks like I'm so advanced, am I really that smart? Persistence, right? People say it's, what is that expression? But persistence counts for a lot. And what you're seeing here is just the not giving up, the backing up, the changing things just a little bit and coming right back at it. And it's a magic trick, seeing Copilot work as it does inside of Neovim. I'm also going to have fuzzy file matching, right? I probably will learn how to use the fuzzy file matching. I have at times missed that. I'm always refiguring out how to grep. And it never stuck. There's certain things that for whatever reason haven't stuck with me over the years. And the API to grep is one of those things. I miss the old break button on keyboards so that you could just freeze it. There's probably some way to do it. I should probably look into it. But when an error goes by, so you want to say system restart required? The system restart happens invisibly in the background. It's the Linux system that undergoes the restart, not the Windows system. You can see me manipulating the systemd stuff. Oh, well, that's snapd mounts. Okay, that's its own thing. But I manipulate systemd throughout here, turning it on, essentially, because systemd, which allows these in the background services, Linux services on Windows, is not activated by default. I think there's still some flakiness Microsoft is working out. Even though they hired the writer of systemd, is now a Microsoft employee, and even though the third-party world has activated systemd under Windows to much greater stability, I'm still using the Microsoft one because, you don't want to use these third-party things when you could be using the Microsoft thing for the exact same purpose. So presumably the Microsoft one is going to be better, if not today, then over time. WSL, when you install Linux under WSL, it does not configure it. See, I'm configuring Linux, right? It does not particularly configure it correctly. Oh, look, okay, so this is where I want to watch carefully. If there's errors, I might see errors scroll by. This is one of the advantages of running it under PowerShell as opposed to the default double-clicking the bat file, because you can scroll up and investigate. I guess that's just as good as print screen freezing. Really? Why not? But I don't see errors. This is around where the errors would be. It's up to the pip installs, and that's getting close to the end. Oh, here's the apt installs. Neovim, right? I'm not seeing any errors, so I'm pretty optimistic. I think I'm going to be able to activate Copilot with just one command here when this is done. Although you folks out there, if you're going to be using the DrinkMe script on your own, that command is probably going to trigger a browser window to pop up for the login confirmation. A lot like OAuth works. What is today? Is it today Tuesday? Monday or Tuesday? Tuesday, okay. Jupyter installed. It's getting very close to the end. And I know that Jupyter is going to work. We've done that test a lot, so I'll jump right to the Copilot, the Neovim Copilot test when this is done. Boom, script is done running. Bring up a Linux shell. Just type nvim, I guess foo. Copilot setup. Express joy in the face of the random number generator. Write a poem in Python, in working Python code. It just repeats what I say. Import support this. Yeah, well, you know, I'm just getting silly. I don't know the nuances of Copilot yet, but you can bet I'm going to be learning it. This is mission accomplished. I got to tell you now that the DrinkMe script is ready for Neovim copiloting, and I think this is going to be a lot more popular of a script as people start discovering this. I've got to make it more discoverable, more clear, because these live cast things are just all over the friggin' place. And I'm going to have to figure out what the configuration or authentication or whatever file keeps my authentication, because I need to delete that and go through the pop-up clicking things, maybe getting something off of GitHub to activate it, so that I know how to instruct other people who are doing the same thing. So what do you think of that, my friends? What do you think of that? Do you like these live casts? They go on forever and ever. Amen. So say something, or else I'm going to be wrapping this up real soon, because that was one marathon session. I'll go out, I'll take a little nighttime walk, and I'll maybe get a hoagie or something. Magic. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Tongue twisted.